Okay, hello everyone. We can start today's lecture. So, in the first half, we would be running different SQL queries. So, it would be good if you have a laptop, you can connect to your Apex account, and so that if you have any query regarding SQL. So, in the first half of the class, we would be revising SQL. Okay. So if you have any question regarding even the basic one, you can ask, no problem. Okay. Uh, and in the second half, we will be discussing transactions. Like in real life, when we are using databases, obviously we must ensure that the transaction must be fully committed, or it should be rolled back if there is some issue, right? Just like when you are doing online transaction, might be uh, just in middle of the transaction there is some issue with the internet or in electricity failure or some sort of thing, so the data should be consistent, right? So we will discuss this sort of thing, that in DBMS how we can handle this problem, because in real life you cannot afford to having like dirty data, or might be. So in terms of transaction, we will discuss, we have different things, strategies. In even SQL we can commit or roll back our transactions. Okay, so we will discuss this thing after the break, but first half of the course, this lecture is about SQL. So anyone facing Apex account issue? So whenever, if you have any issue, just you can email me and I will try to solve that problem, okay, within few hours or maximum within a 1 day. So we can log in, and then, so remember we have imported data, like you can also create different tables, and so you can populate data, and then through SQL we can get data, right? So we can start from employees table. So you can see this is a schema. In the final exam you would be getting SQL question, and obviously you wouldn't have any computer or Apex account access in the final exam. The only thing you would have is this thing, like you have one employees table, it has, for example, these attributes, primary keys and foreign keys are mentioned for each table, and then you have to simply write different SQL queries. For example, find total number of employees who are working in HR department. It means that you have to write very basic SQL query in which you would be writing join query with this employees table and department table on the basis of department ID, and providing one where clause department name is equals to HR or human resource, right? So in your final exam, like at least 40% or 50% of your final exam would be from SQL. So we can start. So we can run different SQL statements. You can see, right? I cannot. Okay. So I would be writing in a uppercase so that it's more readable. Otherwise, you know that SQL is not case sensitive language. Okay. So the easiest one, select static from employees. Static means I'm trying to get all the attributes, and obviously there is no condition, right? So it means that all the rows or all the instances of this employees table would be coming when we would be executing this statement. So you can see here the results: employee ID, first name, last name, email. But in most of the cases, you don't require all attributes. For example, when you would be visiting library and just want to issue some book, they don't need to check, okay, what was your grade in database technologies course, right? There is no condition that this student, they have to check it. So obviously when we were getting this SQL query, it means it will be getting a lot of data, and it is time consuming, and obviously it will costly, right? Because they have to transfer this data over the internet, right? So usually in the system we only write attributes that we want to show it. So for example, I only need email addresses of all employees, right? So I can run, so these are the email addresses, right? But obviously I can get some other information as well. For example, salary, we discussed this thing. And even if we want to check, okay, if we increase 10% salary, then okay, salary into 1.1, for example, and might be we can print employee ID as well. Employee ID. So this is an attribute. Obviously this employee ID is an attribute. Just remember that this thing is a derived attribute. In databases we call it derived. Okay, so what does it mean? Derived means it is not existing in the actual schema, but we are just computing at runtime, and it wouldn't be stored in the database. Okay, so it's just a runtime derived attribute. So all the attributes that we can derive, we usually don't store it in the database. It will save our memory. Can anyone tell some example of other derived attributes that we do need it, but we can derive it from some other attribute? Any idea? In terms of businesses, in terms of order. For example, when you are placing some order, you have 5 items that you are going to purchase, and you are storing price of each item, right? Do we require to store total price of the order? Or we can just compute it, because cost of all 4 items or 5 items we can add and we can get total order cost, right? So this sort of attribute is derived attribute. Same is the case, for example, if I am storing date of birth of some employee, and in some cases if I require to check, okay, who is retiring after 5 years or 2 years, so definitely I would require his or her age. So I can derive age from date of birth. So there is no need to create an extra attribute for age, 61 or 41 or 29, right? Because from date of birth I can compute this sort of thing. So these are the derived attributes, and they are good for reports and no overhead in terms of storage. So this is a salary increase, like this is an existing salary of this particular employee, and we are increasing 10%, and this would be something this, okay? And so for example, we also discussed some group functions, sum of salary, sum of this thing, right? So company wants to know, okay, if we give 10% increase to each employee, what would be the total impact in terms of salaries, right? So you can see existing salaries, for example, they were giving 175,500 euro or any other currency, but with 10% increase, obviously they have to get 193.05. Even you can get difference of it. So this thing minus this thing. So you can check impact of 10% increase in salary. So 10% increase in salary of all employees, it means for each month, or if it's annual basis, the impact is 17,550. Okay, so in DBMS or through SQL we can compute this sort of thing. We can still compute results in application layer as well, right? When you are doing programming in Java or Python or web programming sort of thing, you can send these values, only salary, total salary and increased salary, and then at the top end they can compute and they can show to managers, okay, the impact is 17,000 or something, right? So we have two options. At GUI level, graphical user interface level, we can do some sort of computations, and at DBMS level. So I have one question. What do you think this sort of computation or changes would be easy at GUI level or at DBMS level? Just think, take 15 seconds or 20 seconds. So we have two options. We can make changes at DBMS level, or we can make changes at graphical user interface level, GUI, or user level or presentation layer. Okay, so what do you think? So who will tell? Sorry, at database level. Okay, any reason about selecting database, or just because you are in database class? So if you are in some graphical interface class, then you would say GUI. So okay, so can anyone tell why it is good to have control at DBMS level instead of having a control at GUI or presentation layers? One reason could be is that, like, nowadays in every applications we have multiple graphical user interfaces, right? Or no? Facebook has to make page, website for website users, for Android users, for iOS users. So they are different graphical user interfaces of the same Facebook, right? But the database is same, right? So it is very easy to make a small change at the database level. Otherwise, they have to change it in each and every GUI. And just remember, if some application have 4 or 5 interfaces, then it means that they have to change this thing in each and every graphical user interface. For iOS people, for Android people, for simple web browser or web surfing people, right? So it is very easy to make a change at DBMS level. So this could be one reason. or there could be an other reason is that like you can place some check and balance sort of thing which could be central, and DBMS is a good place to have some constraints. For example, company or government policy says 20 euro per hour is the minimum wage that everyone should get, for example, right? But you know that this 20 euro wage sort of thing could be changing every year or every 2 years. What does it mean? That if that check that whenever you are adding new employee, he or she must have at least 20 euro per hour at GUI level. If that check is at the GUI level, then obviously that's fine. But after 2 years, when this 20% would be changing, it means that you have to change in each type of your GUI. But if that constraint is checking at DBMS level, then it's very easy, right? So in DBMS, you only have to change one time 20 to, let's suppose it is increased to 25 euro per hour or something, okay? So that's why constraints, and they are usually placed at DBMS level because it's very easy to change them. And graphical user interfaces, if you have multiple graphical user interfaces front end, right, then obviously you have to change in each and every graphical user interface, extra efforts, and there is no central control. You're not sure that okay, the team who are working in iOS has changed this sort of thing. But when the control is in DBMS, then you know that okay, if you have changed this sort of thing, obviously it would be sending some error if there is some issue with some GUI. So we can run some other examples. So if you have any question, SQL, if you were trying different sort of SQL query and it was not running, then you can ask. We discussed simple SQL, we discussed different examples. We were running different examples, although it was pre-recorded, but that's fine. I was doing live commentary on it. So if you have any question, you can ask, like if you want some sort of SQL statement. Otherwise, we can revise different SQL statements. So here we are getting salary and increased salary sort of thing. But we, for example, we need this analysis in terms of department wise, right? So whenever we need data in terms of some group, then we can use group by, right? So we have an option group by, and we can say department ID or number, department ID, hopefully department ID. So now for each department we are computing total salary, total increased salary and their difference, okay. Okay, so let me check schema first. Okay, okay. Employees, department ID, department underscore ID, that's fine. So sum of salary. So group by department ID, right? Or even you can print your department ID as well here. So for department ID number 90, the increase would be 5,800, right? Similarly, for some other departments, we can check, okay, for each department, how much we have to increase salaries. So can you try this query on your laptop if you have imported that data? Otherwise, you can download this schema from the Blackboard and you can quickly import in your Apex account. So do try some group buys. Because in most of the cases, usually you have to summarize data, right? Because in reports, no manager will ask you, okay, we have 25,000 employees, get print out of salaries of all employees. Obviously, he or she wouldn't be interested in checking each and every salary, but might be in terms of departments or in terms of managers, they want to check, okay, if this manager is costing us 1 million euro per year, then how much he is earning for us, right? So that they can make some decision. So that's why this sort of analysis is required, and usually this group by statement is very important in this scenario. And we also discussed this having clause. Who will tell what is the difference between where clause and having clause in SQL? What is the difference between having clause and where clause? You can read or no?
Having is only for group as a whole, and then where clause.
Actually, by doing this, I cannot run. Can you repeat?
Having is group as a whole, and then where is more like individual ones.
Good. So basically, if we want some criteria or filtering based on some group, then we can use having clause. Where clause is obviously it is also a filter, but it wouldn't run on group. It would run on individual rows. Okay. So when we have some sort of group data, and then this having clause is good. Okay, so we can apply some having clause. For example, we are not interested in departments where the increase or some sort of this thing is, for example, sum of salary is less than 10,000. We are fine, okay, if some department is costing us 10,000 euro, that's fine, because it's increased 10% wouldn't be so much, right? So group by department ID, then we can say that having sum of salary greater than 10,000. So you can see we have departments like this one, no department. It could be a CEO or owner of this company, but other than, yes, so this row should be eliminated after execution of this statement, right? So you can see now we have only 6 departments where sum of salary is greater than 10,000. So by this way we can group data and then we can filter out. It could be like I'm more interested in finding total number of students in each department, but that's fine if number of students are less than 100, that's fine. So for example, I want to check, okay, total number of students more than 1000 in each department. Only the departments in which more than 1000 students are enrolled, okay. So by this way we can use group and having, then we can join. For example, we have departments table, and you can see in departments table we have department name. Obviously you wouldn't tell someone that I'm working at NUIG in department number 23. He wouldn't be trusted in that number, right? But when you will say, okay, I'm working in BIS or in business school or HR or admin, security, that would be good, right? So it means that now we require data from two tables. So for this purpose in SQL, we have to join it. Can you write SQL query to get employee name and the name of his or her department? Can you write it? Try on your laptop. You have to join two tables, departments and employees, and the SQL query is you have to find out name of department of each employee. No condition. Just name, it could be first name or last name, that's fine. And then so I would check on your laptop. I'm just wearing my mask and coming. Okay, so if we have to join two tables, then obviously we have to provide criteria, and in SQL we have join clause. We can use that thing. So the query was that like we have to print department name of each employee, okay. So but the problem was that there is no department name in the employees table, but this department name table is present in departments table, right? And but this department underscore ID is also present in employees table. It means that we can join these two tables on the basis of this attribute, and then we can get department name. So we have different options. We can make a natural join, we can use using clause, but I would prefer to use on clause, because on clause can do everything that you would be doing with using or natural join clause. So stick to one thing, it can do everything, so much better and very easy to use. So we can go to the object browser again, and this employees table, we can see schema. So first underscore name, last underscore name, that's fine. Department ID, that's fine. So here I can, for example, I want to print first name of the employee and then department name, right? From employees, join departments. On. So there would be you know that department ID is also present in employees table and is also present in departments table, right? Same attribute name. So whenever there would be same attributes name, then obviously DBMS would be confused. So we can remove this sort of ambiguity by just placing the name of the table dot department underscore ID. By this way, we can explicitly telling DBMS that we want to print department number or department ID from departments table, not from the employees table. But the easiest way is we can make aliases of table names as well. So just place small e in front of employees. So join departments space D. So what does it mean? That now we can represent employees table name with E, small e. And in criteria, I am saying on E dot department underscore ID is equals to D dot small d dot department underscore ID. Okay, so this is a join SQL statement in which we are joining two tables, and but we have to provide criteria, matching criteria. Here matching criteria is employees dot department underscore ID should be equals to departments dot department underscore ID, right? And so if you don't want to use this sort of thing, small e and e, then you have to write complete name of the table, employees dot department underscore ID, or then departments dot department underscore ID. So it's up to you. Yeah.
What if there's no conjoining attributes?
If they, then obviously then there is no need to get data from two tables, because they must be related to each other, right? This is a relational database, and if they are not related to each other, so obviously there is no sense. For example, if some students are from BIS and there is no mechanism to take courses in computer science department from computer science department, so obviously there wouldn't be any student registration ID in computer science system for taking some other courses, right? So it means that there is no business logic there to join computer science students and BIS students. Okay, so whenever we require some information, then obviously there would be some attribute that would be common in these two or three tables. Okay, so that's why we are using primary keys and foreign keys. So if there is some primary key or foreign key relationship between two tables, then obviously we can apply join statements. Okay, so by this way we can simply execute. So now you can see we are getting first name of an employee. So we know, okay, Jennifer is working in administration department. Okay, and Michael is there and some sort of thing. So by this way we can use join clause, or might be we can say, for example, count static group by department name, let's say. Even for that we don't require employees table. So who will tell what is the purpose of this query? Select count static comma department underscore name from departments group by department name. What we want to get information, or what sort of information this query will bring. How many?
rows
How many rows means how many?
in
Okay. Yeah, grouping is some sort of, obviously in this table there would be only one row for each department, right? So for example, okay, departments E dot department ID or department ID. You can remove this thing. Okay. So by this way we can check, okay, how many employees are working in each department. Okay, so grouping is just grouping, and this count static is counting total number of rows for each group that are coming after execution of this SQL statement. So we can see in department 80 there are only 3 employees working and 5 employees are working in department 50. So by this way we can execute group by statements, and similarly we can join multiple things. So we can take a break and then we will discuss. So 10-minute break. Okay, so we can discuss milestone 2 because few students have few queries. So we can discuss. So in milestone 2 write-up, very short write-up. Basically it's saying you have to provide select, insert, update or delete SQL queries for each interface of your web app. Okay, so what does it mean? For example, if I can so for example, obviously your web app would contain a sign-in page, right? So for example, you would say for this sign-in page, and obviously you would be taking username and password sort of thing. Okay, and then obviously there would be some submit button, just like normal login. So in milestone 2 you have to tell for this interface, actually whenever user would be adding username and password and submitting this data to the database or to the server, so technically you have to check that this username and password is authenticated user or not, right? Just like Facebook login. So actually you would have some users table at the backend, and you would be executing one statement, for example select static from users, where for example attribute name is user underscore name is equals to this data, let's say admin, and password, so password should be coming from here, for example 123. So this is a basic SQL statement that would be running after the execution of this button. So you have to provide this thing, that for this GUI you would be running this sort of SQL statement at the back end. So Yeah.
So with the username and the password, would that already be generated from the ERD diagram we have, or is that
Yeah,
something-
definitely. In milestone 1, you have done this thing. Like you have one ERD, and in milestone 1, you have to submit its schema that could be imported in SQL or Apex, right?
Yeah.
So it means that in tables, we can generate tables, right?
Yeah.
So that's fine because we are not using actual data or something, that's fine. You can insert some dummy values in users table, 2, 3 dummy values, that's fine. Even if dummy value is not there, no data is there, still you need this query to check that username and password is there or not, right? So you have to provide this sort of thing in milestone 2. Like if you have 5 interfaces, for example, you have one data, one form, you are taking some information from the user, it means that when this form would be submitted, that information would be inserted in your DBMS. It means that at the back end you would be executing insert statement. So you have to just tell SQL for insert statement for your database, okay? You can use some dummy data, that's fine, because we are not creating user interfaces in this project. So you have to provide insert statement that will insert your data into DBMS. Okay? Got it or no? So SQL statements, and obviously you have to tell for this interface we require this SQL statement to be executed at the backend, right? Yeah.
If your ERD has generated the likes of username and passwords, how would you find that in your object browser?
So it's very easy. So you can go here. So if you have already inserted some data, you can go to data. Okay, my session is expired. So we can come. No. Okay. You can check either by selecting SQL command select static from sign in, so that you can simply check all data. Otherwise it's very easy, from object browser as well, go to employees and then data tab, so you can see all the data that have been inserted in that particular table. Okay. So if you are inserting something and you executed that insert statement, just take print of that table, data table, and this one, that for this insert statement after the execution data is in this particular table, right?
Oh, okay.
So you can just place in Word file. So is it clear or still confused? So basically in database applications, whenever user is submitting some data, you have to execute few SQL queries at the backend. So in milestone 2, you have to provide that SQL statements, okay, according to your project. So because every group is doing different project, so might be definitely they would have different interfaces. So they have to tell, okay, for this interface, when user would be adding data, and submitting that data to the backend server. At the backend, this SQL query would be executed. You have to write that SQL query with dummy values, okay?
For using the delete command, so let's say for a data set you're using one country, let's say like a library in one country, like NUIG, but it has different countries, can you delete them and then just insert Ireland to demonstrate the delete function?
Might be in your application you don't need any delete statement. It's not a compulsory thing. I just mention the names of all SQL things so that you shouldn't miss anything, okay? So if in your application, if you are not deleting any data, then obviously there wouldn't be any delete statement in your write-up, right?
So if we were doing the thing that displays information, like web patches, would we put an insert query or would we just like insert the name? Like in Oracle data, we need the insert query.
Yeah, insert query according to your data,
Okay.
according to your table, right?
Yeah.
Not a generic insert statement, because obviously then it would be of no use for you. But for example, if you are adding score of one football match or something, some match into your database, then it means that insert into data and then table name or something, right? So, but you can use some dummy data of some football match between two countries. That's fine. Name of any two clubs, good number of goals or something. That's fine. But the syntax should be correct enough so that if you want to use that insert statement and execute it in your SQL commands, it will insert new record to your table, okay? So you only have to provide that insert statement. So we can try another SQL query of grouping, in which we would be using group by clause as well as we would be joining two tables. For example, it's very easy if I want to find out how many employees are working in each department, right? But obviously it was not with respect to department name. It was coming with respect to department number, right? Remember? Okay, we can write it and then we can modify. So for example, if I want to check how many number of employees are working in each department, then it's very easy. Select count static, comma, e dot department ID from employees group by e dot department ID. So with this very simple SQL statement, we can get how many number of employees are working in each department. But the problem is that it's coming with department ID. Like if I tell to my manager, okay, there are 3 employees in department 80, then obviously you have question?
Do you mind just zooming in?
Sorry?
Zooming in so you can see. It's quite hard.
Actually, the problem is that when I zoom in, then this run button goes there, then, okay. Can you see now better? Okay. I asked this thing that can you see, then no one said okay, then I said okay. But when I was up there and I cannot see, I said okay, my eyes, okay. Okay, so see, here count static department ID employees but the results are not good enough in terms of representation. I cannot know, okay, in HR how many employees are there, in administration how many employees are there. But the problem is that this HR or this administration information is in the departments table. It means that I have to join employees table with departments table firstly. Then I have to group it. Then I can print some sort of thing, okay? So I can change this query, select count static, that's fine. So for joining, just remember that table name, you have to write join, keyword SQL, and then you have to provide second table name, which in our case is departments. Okay, we can give nickname as D, for example. But for joining, we have to provide condition, joining criteria. So on E dot department ID should be equal to D dot department ID. So this is a criteria. Okay, and obviously this will bring again same results, but we don't want to print department ID, but we want to print department name. Okay, but this is only possible if this department name is part of group by statement. So we can change this thing to E dot D dot, because department name is in departments table. Okay, so now we can execute this statement and results would be same in terms of number of employees, but this should be changed from department ID to department name. Okay, I can go all the way to here. E dot department name. Where is E dot department name? It should be D dot department name. Oops. Okay, so now you can see for each department I'm getting department name, right, and its count. Okay, so in this query we are grouping, we are using group by statement, and similarly even we can apply some other, we can make some complex query. Just remember that whenever you have to write SQL statements, start from a basic thing, easy query. Okay, so just try to find out that, okay, how many tables do we require? This information is coming from this table, this information is coming from this table, so it means that I have to join it. Okay, so if you have to join it, then you will be using that join statement. And then if query is asking some sort of summarization, grouping, then obviously you need group by clause as well. Okay, and in the lecture we saw that this group by clause, that we can only print group functions or name of the group by attribute. I cannot print some other attribute here because it will throw error. It should be part of group by clause. Okay, so I cannot, obviously it will not make sense if I would try to print E dot first name for each department. Why I am interested in finding employee first name, so it would be confusing because in each department there would be so many employees, right? So when we are grouping data, then obviously we cannot print individual rows data. Okay. So we can go here. So basically, I am using most of the slides from this course. So this is a very good course at CMU. So if you are more interested in more advanced topics in database technologies, so you can follow this course as well. So in terms of databases, we have different scenarios in which our databases can have multiple problems. Okay. So, for example, in my bank account, if I have 10,000 euros or 1,000 euros, for example, and one of my friend is going to ATM with my debit card. At the same time, I will go to the bank and try to withdraw 1,000 euro. And we are synced together so that the exact same time he will press 1,000 euro transaction, and at the same time that banker or someone will get something. Okay. Or I can do some online transaction or something, right? So it means that there would be an issue. Obviously, we cannot draw 2,000 euro instead of 1,000, right? So there must be some mechanism. There must be some mechanism so that database transactions should be skewed, should be consistent, right? And there shouldn't be any sort of race condition sort of thing, right? So there are few problems. So this is a basic motivation of concurrency control, some sort of thing. If we are trying to modify one table, multiple users are trying to change same data, then how this DBMS will handle this problem. Okay. So this is very important in business scenario especially. So for example, we both change the same record in a table at the same time, how to avoid race condition. For example, library person or at BIS department secretary is changing your full name something, and you are also updating your first name or something. Then obviously DBMS has to decide which transaction would be executed, and so yeah. So you transfer, for example, 100 euro between bank accounts, but there is a power failure. So for example, you are sending money from AIB to Bank of Ireland. From your bank side, 100 is deducted, but when that sort of thing is going to happen, remember, so can anyone tell how many SQL statements would be executing in this transaction? For example, you have two accounts in AIB and in Bank of Ireland, right? And you are transferring 100 euro from one bank account to another bank account. Can anyone tell how many SQL statements would be executing? How many? Or which one? So what would be the first step to do this transaction? Transferring 100 euro from your one account to another account. What would be the first step? In terms of DBMS, I'm not asking about other things. thing.
Select account.
Okay, select that account. AIB would be checking that 100 euro is available or not, right? So it would be a select statement, right? Select balance from accounts where account number is your account number and balance is greater than 100. If this thing is not, if this statement is not executing, it means that you don't have balance greater than 100, yeah?
Would it be greater to and equal to 100?
Greater than and equals to, yeah?
And
If bank account can be go to zero, yeah? Yeah?
And then if it sends, would you run an update function?
Good, very good. So it means that we need select statement firstly to check 100 euros are available in particular account or not. If it is, then might be we also have to check that the transfer account is valid or not. It means that we have to consult with Bank of Ireland, okay, the provided bank account number is valid or not. And let's suppose they say this account is valid, you can transfer money. So it means that we have to update, AIB has to update this account balance minus 100, right? And then Bank of Ireland has to update balance plus 100 incoming money. We are supposing they are not deducting any money, okay? So by this way, you see, in one transaction, we have to execute multiple SQL statements at different locations, because AIB server would be in different place and Bank of Ireland server would be in different place. So, but as a whole, this transaction should be monitored or controlled in such a way that it should be executed successfully, or if it's failed, then all the involving SQL statements should be rolled back. So the question was that, like, you transfer 100 euro between bank accounts, but there is a power failure at Bank of Ireland end, for example. So it doesn't mean that you have lost your 100 euro, right? Might be update is there, but they have to roll back, okay? So that's why we need some sort of commit and rollback sort of thing. And this is concurrency control, okay? And durability is that you can recover even if there's sort of something like different database states, but obviously we can recover from a power failure. So concurrency and this recovery is a valuable properties of DBMS. It's very important in terms of transactions, and this concurrency and recovery is based on 4 properties, very, very important database properties. So whenever you are going to give some interview regarding database technologies, they would ask referential integrity. What is an referential integrity? What is a primary key? What is a foreign key? And then they will ask, okay, what does it mean in terms of ACID properties, okay, ACID. So basically these are the 4 properties, abbreviations we are using here, 4 properties abbreviation, and they will ask what is A or C stands in ACID properties and what does it mean. So they are very easy, they are 4 properties to do some sort of transactions. So a transaction is the execution of a sequence of 1 or more operations. We discussed this thing. Like if I am going to transfer some money to someone account, then obviously this is a transaction. But this transaction would contain multiple SQL statements to be executed. Okay. So 1 or more operations, for example, SQL queries on a database to perform some higher level function. It is the basic unit of change in a DBMS. Okay. Partial transactions are not allowed. So in one transaction, if there are 10 SQL statements are going to be executed, then it should execute all 10. Otherwise, If there are 4 or 5 executed and then there are some problem, you have to roll back these 3, 4, 5 statements that were already executed. Even if that €100 was deducted from my account, if that €100 is not successfully transferred to the Bank of Ireland account, then this transaction will be reversed, right? So, no partial transactions. Fully transaction should be executed. Okay. In simple words, all SQL statements should be successfully executed to say that your transaction is now successful. Okay. So transaction example is from, for example, move €100 from Lynn bank account to his son's account, right? So transaction would be obviously checking that this person has €100 in his account. Then second part of this transaction would be deduction of €100, and then obviously we have to add this €100 to his son. Okay, so you can see multiple SQL queries for one transaction. Okay, so easiest way is to execute each transaction one by one in serial order, right, as they arrive at the DBMS. Only one transaction can be running at the same time in the DBMS. So this is a very basic approach, but obviously we cannot do this thing. And so before a transaction, this TXN stands for transaction. So before a transaction starts, copy the entire database to a new file and make all changes to that file. If the transaction completes successfully, overwrite the original file with the new one. Otherwise, if the transaction fails, just remove the dirty copy, right? This is the easiest solution. You have one copy of your DBMS, new transaction is coming, make a copy of your DBMS, execute all statements, SQL queries on the new copy. If it's successful, just replace your new copy with the existed one, right? This is the easiest solution for this sort of thing, but obviously it's not scalable when you have thousands of users and very big databases. Okay, so a potentially better approach is to allow concurrent execution of independent transactions. Okay, so why do we want that? Because of better utilization, increased response times to users, but obviously we also require correctness and fairness, right? This is the main thing. So in transactions in SQL is very easy. A new transaction starts with the begin command. Okay, so in your SQL you can just start writing with begin, and then the transaction stops with either commit or abort. Okay, so if commit, the DBMS either saves all the transaction changes or aborts it. If abort, all changes are undone, so that it's like as if the transaction never executed at all. Okay, so these are the three keywords: begin, commit, and abort. And you can use these words for create a one transaction. So correctness criteria is comprised of this 4 properties: ACID. A stands for atomicity, like you know atom, right? So atomicity, all actions in the transaction happen or none happen, means all or nothing. Okay, so this property is atomicity. Or consistency, if each transaction is consistent and the DB starts consistent, then it ends up consistent. Okay, so like simple thing is that if DBMS was consistent, and then if you are adding new data that is consistent, it will make ultimately new DBMS should also be consistent. So isolation is that execution of one transaction is isolated from that of other transactions. So just for example that I was discussing with you, that I am going to withdraw money through ATM and my friend is using my account for some online transaction, it should be some sort of isolation sort of transactions. Execution should be like that It's totally independent. It shouldn't be, but in terms of DBMS, it should be such like that, okay, I am the only one who can change it. But then if there is some dirty data, then obviously we can undo that sort of thing. So third thing is durability. If a transaction commits, its effects persist, right? So this is durability or recovery, we can say that. Like even if that there was some power failure at Bank of Ireland, and if my bank says, okay, your money has been transferred, that's fine. When their system would be up, they should be able to recover all the data and update account $100 or €100 in the other account. Okay, so this is durability, this sort of thing. Or at least they can tell back to AIB that €100 is not added, so don't deduct from that account. If they have deducted it, they have to roll back that transaction. Okay, so this is durability. So in short, atomicity is all or nothing. Okay, so in terms of transaction, it should execute all SQL queries or nothing, zero or 100. You can remember by this way. Atomicity requires 0 or 100%. Okay. Consistency, it looks correct to me, means if we have a consistent DBMS and we are adding consistent SQL queries, then it would will keep remain that DBMS would be still consistent. Isolation is as if alone, so we will check this thing in the next lecture in more detail. And durability is survive failures. So if there is some failure, it should have some logs. Okay, so servers and DBMS have logs. So on the basis of some logs, they can recover things easily. Even there is some power failure or some sort of hardware failure, it is possible. So this is these are the 4 properties, important properties in terms of database transactions. Each transaction should follow these 4 properties. We will discuss these properties with some examples or how we can make our DBMS in the next lecture as well. So I think we can stop here.